The content of this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your mental or physical health. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and do not replace personalized care from a licensed professional.
Welcome to Mindful Moments with Pedro Morante, a space where a nurse practitioner and educator shares real talk on mental wellness, mindfulness, and navigating life in and out of healthcare. Let's take a moment to breathe, reflect, and grow together.
Welcome for another episode of Mindful Moments with Pedro Morante. And for these episodes, we're training excellent nurse practitioners. But at what cost? We have a very special guest, and her name is Dr. Zyrene Marsh. And this is a podcast where we explore the conversations that matters most for our well-being, for our growth, and humanity. And today, we're talking about something that touches nearly every healthcare professional, but often remains hidden behind achievement, professionalism, and resilience. Burnout, stress, and the pressure to always be strong. The reality that many of the people caring for others are quietly struggling themselves. Our guest today is Dr. Zyrene Marsh, Assistant Professor and Assistant Program Director of the DNP-FNP Program at UC Davis, and her work focuses on preparing future nurse practitioners that through a culturally responsive and globally informed approach to healthcare. But beyond her impressive credentials, Dr. Marsh is someone deeply invested in helping healthcare professionals thrive, not just academically and clinically, but personally and emotionally. Dr. Marsh, finally, welcome to Mindful Moments. I'm so excited for our collaboration for today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's been a long time coming. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We met at the California CANP in San Diego. So that's where we talk about things, and then we spoke again in the lobby day at Sacramento, and now this comes into
We're
fruition.
here.
So thank you so much.
Yes, thank
Yay!
you.
For those who may be meeting you for the first time, can you walk us through your journey from your beginnings in the Philippines to becoming a nurse practitioner, educator, and leader in nursing education in the United States?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak about my journey. So yes, I completed my bachelor's degree in the Philippines back in 2011. And soon after graduation, we all migrated here to the US, where I practiced initially as a registered nurse in a skilled nursing facility. That was a little bit frustrating for me because coming from the Philippines, we know that we give higher importance to getting into the hospital for a job after graduation, right? And I've always wanted to be a pediatric nurse. So I was hoping that I could go into that avenue after I graduated and moved to the US. But it's okay, we take what we could get. So I worked at a skilled nursing facility. After a year, I was promoted to be the charge nurse. And then after a couple of years, I moved into the hospital setting and also did my nurse practitioner degree while working part-time. During my journey as a nurse, I think I was a nurse for about like 5 years before I went into my NP school. I realized that the US also the patients in the US also suffer from the same disparities that I've seen in the Philippines, like access to care, mental health issues, substance use issues, and all those things. So I'm like, I need to be able to contribute more in order to help bridge those gaps. So I went back to NP school. After a year of being a nurse practitioner, I'm like, I really want to make all these changes, but I want to learn more how to do it, in a more appropriate and more systematic and effective way in the US healthcare system. Because again, my background in education was mostly in the Philippines. So I went in to do my doctoral education through Johns Hopkins University, graduated, was able from there. My career just took off. publications, conferences, and I'm just really glad to be able to work with University of California, Davis now as the assistant program director. I've only been with the school for about 3 years, but I love it. I love the flexibility. I love the challenge. To be able to continue to grow as a nurse practitioner, as a nurse, and also as an advocate for different causes in healthcare. So, yeah, now I'm so happy that also able to give back through the role that I have in the school.
That's a wonderful journey that you have and very inspiring. I think I can echo and I also resonate with your journey. Also started with skilled nursing facility
Oh,
and work our way up. But it's really
yes.
important to know and how to manage your self-doubt, resilience, and
Mhm.
belonging. And throughout that journey, were there moments when you questioned yourself, felt overwhelmed, or wondered whether you belong? What helped you
Mhm.
keep moving forward?
Yes. I think also coming from a different country where you were trained differently, and then speaking a different language and coming to this country where there's so many opportunities, but also there are so many challenges in healthcare. I did struggle with self-doubt, especially when, as I mentioned earlier, I really wanted to be a pediatric nurse, and that was way far from where I landed.
Mhm.
um, so I was like, is this really, what I wanted to do? This is not what I hoped for, but do I belong here? Is this really the space that, I wanted to be in? And I'd be honest, up to now, like sometimes I'm like, I look at the people that I work with, how accomplished they are, and all the achievements of our students. And I'm like, am I doing the right thing? I'm like, so it does happen. But I think for me, perseverance can always like do me good or do everyone good, because as long as you persevere in whatever you do or whatever your goal is, you're always a step closer to that, right? I might not have landed in pediatrics, but now like I get to learn more about pediatrics. I get to teach my students about pediatrics. So I think like just a different mindset helps me fulfill that goal of mine when I was, younger. But also, I think what helped kept me going, which still helps up to this point, and I always hold on to this ever since, is my faith. Um, because I know that even, certain rejections or delays in my goals or promotions and all of those, jobs that I wanted to get, I know that it happens for a purpose. And I hung on to my faith to get me through whatever challenges or self doubt I'm having now, and think that, I'm a child of God, I can do this. And I think, just having that faith and strong belief that everything happens for a reason also like helps, keep me going.
Who helped you believe in yourself when your confidence was low at that time?
During that time, I would say my husband, because when I started NP school was around the same time that my husband and I got married.
Mhm.
And he's very supportive of advancing his education. He also has a master's in business administration, systems engineering. He's an engineer with the Air Force. So he would always remind me that, if this is something that you want, you need to keep going. You need to keep trying. If you need to take a break, it's okay. Whatever, the challenges would be ahead, we will
Mhm.
get through it together. So I think that really helps. But also all the mentors that I've met along the way helped. And there's so many of them to mention, but I always keep them in my heart. I always text them every time I have some, small achievements, because I think they've always been, the wind beneath my wings.
I definitely agree with you, right? We often celebrate accomplishments, but rarely talk about the doubts and fears that happen
Mhm,
behind the scenes. So, your husband was your wind beneath your wings and
mhm,
definitely have helped you out prosper to your career. And
mhm,
that's important, right? Sometimes redirection or paths that we are not expecting sometimes lead us to a perfect destination. Right?
mhm.
And now we're
Exactly.
going to talk about the hidden emotional landscape of healthcare. We often hear about workforce shortages, staffing
Mhm,
challenges, and burnout. But from your perspective, what do you think is happening beneath the surface emotionally for healthcare professionals today?
I think, like, for me, I thought about this question really hard because I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, as an educator and as a clinician, what do I think would best answer this question? But I think it came down to compassion fatigue, which also is like, and the root cause, if you think about it, would be burnout and all those like system inequities that we're seeing. But I think for nurses and clinicians, we are suppressing so much of our emotional challenges because we have this drive, or there's this expectation that we need to meet professionally. So we sacrifice our own peace and our own well being sometimes just to meet those professional expectations. And it's just really sad that if you look in social media or the news, there are still several healthcare systems or different like programs out there that do not really support nurses or protect nurses. And it's just, like an example or the emotional and physical assault happening in different hospitals or outpatient settings towards nurses, but there's really not much laws or bill to protect nurses against those, or even hospital policies to protect us from those things. I've experienced them myself as an NP, as a nurse, and it's like really devastating because I've been practicing for a year or a decade and a half, and it's still persistent. So
Mhm.
to me, like those like challenge, like the emotional challenges of compassion fatigue, burnout still really like hits up on nurses.
And what are the warning signs do you think organizations often miss for this?
I think it's when people start leaving,
Mhm.
and especially the good ones, right? Because
Mhm.
there's really a big problem when your best employees start to leave.
Mhm.
But we are so good, like nurses are so good about, because we're so compassionate, we're so good about not hurting other people's feelings or just to living in peace, right? Like a peaceful exit that
Mhm.
some of us or most of us are not 100% honest of the reason why we left, because also we want to get a good reference, right? But because if you think about it, if you're truly happy with where you're at and they make changes or they're flexible to what your needs are, there's no reason for you to leave, right? But if you're underpaid, if the system is constantly demanding of you beyond what you're truly expected or able to do, then that's exhausting, right? So I think health, like the healthcare leaders and systems fail on that. Like they don't, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe they do, but we still have all those conversations with nurses, nurse practitioners, healthcare providers about what is it really that healthcare systems should do to promote the well-being and the morale of the people that work for them so that they stay.
I agree with you, and those are important insights. And also,
Mm,
if our best employees leave the hospital, then actually the hospital is um, spending more money because they have to retrain again, and then at the same time, short staffing happens, and patient healthcare outcomes kind of like at stake. Now,
mhm,
burnout isn't simply about being tired. Often
mhm.
it's about prolonged emotional strain and moral distress and feeling disconnected from the purpose. And now a
Exactly.
lot of nurses take some breaks and nurse practitioners taking off from their break
Mhm,
and having some self-care time because they're really overwhelmed with the demands at work.
mhm.
Now let's talk about Filipino culture and the burden of being strong. As a Filipino, how has our culture, both in the healthcare and in life, sometimes taught us to be strong at all costs, even when we may need to help others?
I think, and we've celebrated during last week. We actually had an event at the school, and we celebrated how much hard workers Filipinos are. And you've seen that. Like I've talked to non-Filipino nurses or healthcare leaders, and they always speak highly of like the work ethics of Filipinos. And we take pride of that. But we also have this notion that we keep working until we drop, because we're
Mhm.
not only working for ourselves, we're not only working for our patients, but we're also working to send money to the Philippines or support families or relatives in the Philippines. That's a very common cultural, thing that we do as Filipinos, is to help our families. So we work till we drop, and we don't complain about the job, right? So I think that's another problem too. Like, if you've seen the movie Nurse Unseen, the Filipinos kept showing up during COVID, even though they're getting sick. A huge percentage of nurses that died during COVID were Filipinos. We still didn't get that much spotlight until this film was shown. And so I feel like that really, paints a picture of how hardworking Filipinos are, that we keep pushing through, and we almost like hide it under resilience when we're really also like struggling inside. But the flip side of that, though, of being hard workers, is the concept of bayanihan, of teamwork, right? And we see that in hospitals. Every time you talk to non-Filipino nurses, they'd be like, oh, I love working to this tita or ate or tito or kuya, because they either will bring food, or they're always really helpful. If you don't know anything, they'll come rushing and help you. And we're always just like the best people to work with, right? And you'll see that in the shows that are coming out now, the pit and all that, like how Filipinos really show up when they're at work. So I think like that's like the Filipino culture of like bayanihan and working hard really shows up in the way that we work with other people, especially in healthcare.
Thank you for that. And many of us are taught that strength means endurance, but
Mhm.
perhaps true strength also includes vulnerability. And why is asking for help sometimes so difficult for us?
I think it's because there is this high expectation, right? That you got here because you're good or you're great. So, like, asking for help could sometimes be perceived as a weakness. Or it could be we're afraid that other people would look at us and say, oh, yeah, that person didn't really know much, or they're not as good, like being compared, because that's also another issue in our culture, right? As like,
Mm,
once you rise to the top, there are some people who get envious of your success, and they will slowly pull you down. So we
mm,
always have this inclination to keep proving ourselves, that we
mhm.
could continue to climb up, because we never know when that specific person or group would come in and just pull you down. I think we have that fear because of our culture.
And it's still existing, the crab mentality, but it's
Yes.
getting better as before,
Yes.
right? I think the we really need to make sure that that culture will be eradicated too. And
Yeah. And I think we're doing a good job of that, lifting up
yeah,
our fellow Filipinos like this. So
yeah.
proud of you doing all your projects and your businesses to help people, especially in the mental health space. So I'm just always clapping for you. I love it.
Yes, we're rooting for each other, and
Yeah.
that's why that's how it should be, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
then we're talking about mental health among today's nurse practitioner and DNP
Mhm.
students. Many
Mhm.
nurse practitioner and DNP students are high achievers, yet despite their accomplishment, many struggle also with self-doubt, anxiety, and burnout. What do you think nursing educators are seeing today that perhaps wasn't talked about a decade ago?
Um, let's see. I would say, and this was a new concept to me also when I started at the school, is trauma informed education.
Mm,
We've heard about trauma informed care over the last maybe decade, but I haven't really like thought or heard about trauma informed education until I started with UC Davis, and I'm so fortunate that I did and read a book about it and learned so much, because I feel like students come from different backgrounds, and for our program specifically, we are a DNP-FNP. So most of all of them already have their RN licenses or experiences, and they come in to do their nurse practitioner graduate studies. So most of them come in with a sincere desire to further their education and to help more people, not because of money, because to be honest, like you might be getting paid as an RN more than being
Mm.
paid as a starting NP, right? So that's not always the driving force. Money is not the driving force to continue graduate education. Um, and so, as educators, we need to be more aware of that. We need to be aware that these people are coming in with their diverse experiences,
Mm.
and that could either be a positive or a negative. They have families that they're taking care of, things come up. How do we become flexible? How do we cater to all the traumas that these nurses have also been through before? How do we, create a curriculum that ensures that we are being sensitive and respectful of the diverse contributions and the diversity of our students, while also making sure that we're preparing them to provide evidence-based practice when they graduate from our program.
I love how you emphasize about trauma-informed care and also in the application of it in the academe
Okay.
side. And I feel like I agree with you, right? Today's learners are navigating academic demands
Mm-mm.
while also managing economic uncertainty and family responsibilities and constant comparison. And those could be barriers that could affect their success in their NP
Mhm.
education. And what are you seeing right now in terms of how social media influence students' perceptions of success?
I think we need to do a little bit better, but I think we're headed to the right direction, right? We are seeing so many influencers now.
Mm.
Um, and Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, talking about their journey as NP students, as new NPs, as specialized NPs. And I think that's important for students to see early on, because then they could have a better like picture of the real journey, right? It's not always glam. It's not always easy, but the social media also sometimes could be a tool for them to be more successful in their journeys. Like there are really good influencers out there who talk about evidence-based practice,
Mm.
who debunks myths, who talks about well-being, podcasts like yours. And I think this is really a good time to be a student or to enter this role in healthcare.
I agree with you. There's so much resources as compared to us before, right? We have
Yeah, we
limited
were like
resource. We have to.
walking through the dark, learning everything by ourselves. You have to go find a book or library, and now there's like different platforms to learn. If you're not a book person, there's like osmosis. There's different videos, podcasts that you could watch or learn from. It's a wonderful time to be a student.
Do you think the students right now are experiencing greater pressure than the previous generations?
I think they are.
Mm.
Um, because I say that because we are also living in an era of AI.
Mm.
So, especially in our program, we do encourage them to use AI in certain courses and certain assignments, but there are very specific courses and assignments that we do not allow AI. But,
Mm.
some students would still use it.
Mm.
And so, our faculty are trained to be able to spot those AI generated assignments. And so sometimes also the caveat is there are some really good students who like write really well, who conceptualize very well, and sometimes it looks like it's AI, but it's not. So
Mhm.
they are under like higher scrutiny of whether they're being, honest with their education or not, because we're certainly, training them to be safe providers. If you're
Mhm.
just continuously using AI and not using your critical thinking skills, then,
Mhm.
that will be problematic when you start practicing and you don't have access to those tools, right? So it's like this generation of students and learners have to learn both sides, whereas during our time, we don't have AI. We have to write our papers from scratch. um, and then we have to like really buy books from ebooks or
Mhm. Mhm.
wherever, right? Barnes
Mhm.
and Noble, in order to learn. But now they have all these tools that they can use. They input the symptoms and all that, and then it will give them differential diagnosis, right? But that's not how we were trained. So I think they are held to a higher standard this time.
Sure. So what's your streamline of process if they're submitting their work and you think that it's
Hmm.
AI,
Yeah.
or what's your process for that, for recognizing it?
So it depends on the assignment. Say, for example, it's an assignment that they're not supposed to use AI. So like soap notes, right?
Mhm.
Or clinical encounter logs that we ask them to do, to really see their differential diagnosis, their critical thinking. So typically, what we do is we review it as a faculty. If um, as a faculty member, you're grading it and you have a concern, you bring it up to the IOR, the instructor of record.
Mhm.
And if the IOR agrees that this is AI, we often would meet with the student first or send a message to the student to get some more information or to clarify that, hey, this appears to be flagging as AI generated. Can we set up a meeting and walk us through your thought process? Because we've had students that would like give us a really good like output, and we're like, oh, this is really good, but I don't know like exactly if she made it. So we make an appointment, and they couldn't even speak about the soap now. Like they couldn't even like justify the differential diagnosis. So then that's a red flag, right? So
Yeah.
with that, like we report it to the Office of Academic Integrity, and they run reports. Both they have like a software that they use to see how much of it is AI. They'll actually give you a percentage, and then they also do a manual check. And then from there, then they'll determine whether the student violated academic integrity policy or not. And then a course of action will follow that. It just really depends if it's the first time, or so like if it's the first time, sometimes they have to go through like an AI or academic integrity training again.
Mhm.
And then if they do it again, then that's a ground for uh, uh, a heavier penalty. But yeah, there's also been instances that we thought it was AI. We talked to the student, and the student was able to walk us through the case like, yeah, she knew it from start. So that didn't, escalate. So it just really depends. But we do have a system in place.
Great. That's important to know because we're preparing this clinicians later on to deliver the safe and best care and quality care for our
Mhm.
patients. So we just need to make sure that we're doing our job also as educators
Mhm.
in
Yeah,
teaching them how to best prepare for complex cases of our patients.
exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
we want to support both students and faculty. We often talk about student burnout, but
Mhm.
educators also carry tremendous responsibility as well. What
Mhm.
challenges are you seeing among students and faculty, and how can institutions better support their well-being?
So I've spoken about AI as one of the challenges, right?
Mm.
Because again, it raises the question not just for faculty and students about critical thinking and integrity, and also the the responsibility on the faculty to provide trauma informed care. I think is challenging because not all faculty members know about this concept yet. So we're continuously educating, and even for students, it's also a new concept for them. So sometimes they would come in and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry.
Mm.
They have a lot of things going on with their family, or emergencies come up, and they come in anxious and say, I'm sorry, I can't submit this. Like, can I get an extension? Or they submit an assignment that's half made. Like you could tell that they just rushed through it.
Mm.
But really, like, reassuring them, that having that conversation with them, that it's okay. Like, you're a graduate student. We don't expect you to be perfect. We don't expect you to submit your assignments on time every single time, because things happen, things come up. Your family should always come first, and we're here to support you. So I think that constant reassurance can be taxing on our end too, because we feel like we are also their therapists,
Yeah.
as their mentors, right? We have to like be flexible to what they're going through as part of the trauma informed education, but also, sometimes we, because these are adult learners, we have, yeah, students that would come in with very strong personality, and
Mhm.
we're like, oh, wait a minute, and that could sometimes be construed being unprofessional.
Yeah.
And that's really hard on faculty, because we are here to support them, but
Mm.
there are some students every now and then that would come in and be like, I'm superior over you, my tuition is paying for you, like, so those type of things sometimes come up, and it can be very, very challenging for faculty to go through and navigate that. But I think our school has done a really great job providing support and resources to our students who are and faculty who are struggling or having some challenges. We have like therapists available, mental
Mhm.
health support, both to our faculty and staff.
Thank you for your insights, and I strongly agree with you that all resources now are provided to the students
Mm-hmm.
in comparison with 10 years ago, right? And the
Yeah.
health of an educational environment affects everyone within it. So when educators like us struggle, students
Mm.
often feel it too. And we really
Yes.
need to make sure that there's no like power struggle between the students and the
Mm-hmm.
teachers, but actually collaborating and helping each other out with their
Yeah,
journey.
exactly.
Now, our next segment is the transition from student to provider. And I think we've been through this role also before. There comes a moment when a nurse transitions from a student to being a provider. What
Mm-hmm.
emotional challenges do you see during that transition? And how can new providers build confidence without expecting perfection?
Thank you for that question. So, as a context, too, I am mostly teaching the clinical part of our
Mhm.
courses in our DNP-FNP program. So, they see more of me when they start their clinicals. I help arrange those clinical placements and all those things. So, and as you know, like the transitioning between the RN role to the NP student is really difficult.
Mhm.
I think most of my the like one of the emotional challenges, or the biggest emotional challenges that they come with, is the imposter syndrome. Like, they
Yeah.
come in and they're like, ooh, like, do I really belong here? I don't know if I can make all those decisions, because, like, I don't know if you remember during your time, but like on the first or second day of your rotation, you're just observing your preceptor, and you're like a fly on the wall, and you're observing this preceptor ask all those like really important questions, come up with differential diagnosis, and you're just blown away, and you're like, oh, I have to do that now. I can't just be following orders from the doctor. I'm just not, documenting on flow sheets on what the vital signs are, intake, our input, output. It's not like that anymore. You're actually trying to gather information from the students, from the patients, from the chart, from the family members, and trying to put that together, right? So I think that big imposter syndrome brings that anxiety among students that could affect their learning, because if you're coming in already anxious, there's no room in your brain to learn more, right? So what we do to prepare our students, before they even start their clinicals, is we have like we call it immersion. So they usually start their clinicals for the first time like January or winter quarter of their second year. But around November, they come in. They have a week with us where we practice skills. We practice interviewing, taking a thorough HPI, getting a thorough exam, how to provide your preceptor like a thorough report in a concise way, because preceptors don't like 10-minute reports, right?
Mm,
and really like giving them feedback on how they did on that, how can they do better. And even once they start their clinicals, we have assignments embedded for them to continue to practice that, so that they're not constantly like feeling like they're failing, right? I think giving that positive reinforcement that, yeah, you're doing good, maybe we can do this a little bit differently, but still
mm,
highlighting the growth that comes from their fear of being in that new role.
Yeah, stepping in a new role could indeed pose a challenge, and at the same time, we need to make sure that we're preparing for a bigger picture of it, right? Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of nurses are afraid to step out of their comfort zone. So we're so used to the nurse role, and now we're turning into the nurse practitioner role. Now, what will be your advice for those who have finished their program, have passed their board certification, and have tried to practice but end up quitting their NP role and staying on the bedside? Do you think there will be solutions or mindset that we need to shift out there, that they already are certified or capable but still ended up not practicing as a nurse practitioner?
I think what I would tell them is they should do what they think is best for them and their family, because I know that making that shift or that decision doesn't come easy. Because honestly,
mm,
I've thought about that too before, because like when I first had my first child, and then I was working as an NP full time. um I was exhausted. Like that
mm,
constant, like trying to seeing 18, 25 patients a day, being responsible for their lives, and then coming home to a child who, you missed the entire day, and trying to take care of them, make that connection with them, but
mm,
also like being worried that whole night while you're taking care of your son, how much is your in basket, how much starting you haven't done, right? So we are not here to judge those people that made that decision to go back to the bedside, because that decision didn't come easy to them.
mhm,
But the good thing is we're in a very flexible profession.
mm,
um you could be at bedside for as long as you want, but you could always come back to being a nurse practitioner, because you didn't leave the healthcare, you're still there. But I assure you that when you go back to the bedside with that NP lens, that will also be a difficult transition, that you are now not making those critical decisions of what to order, what the diagnosis is like. And now you just have to follow orders. And that could be difficult as you
yeah,
transition there. So you do what you think is best
mhm,
for you, but know that, there's nothing is permanent, right? You could always come back to where you think you best fit based on the season that you're in your life.
Thank you for that insights about the transition. And as they
Mm-hmm.
said, it's always boils down to what works best for you and what
Mm-hmm.
suits your lifestyle, and at the same time, what makes you happy, right? Because you don't want
Right.
to be showing up to a job that you really don't like, right?
Exactly.
So, because it will affect your well being and also the patient's outcomes too.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about your local to global perspective on healthcare. Your work emphasizes on educating nurse practitioners through a local to global lens. How have your experiences in both in the Philippines and the United States shaped the way you prepare future clinicians to deliver culturally responsive and equitable care?
Thank you for that question. I am very proud of my roots, and I
Mm,
am so happy that the University of California gives me that opportunity to bring in the Philippines into our program and the culture, and also to give back to the Philippines while fostering this inclusiveness and diversity in our education. Um, I believe that my experiences from the Philippines and here in the US healthcare system um, gives me that, or like empowers the cognitive diversity within me, and that I also use that concept within our classroom, within my students, which allows us to all think outside of the box. It helps me influence our students, mentor new NPs or incoming NPs or those just even thinking about being NPs to really like when you're going up the ladder or you're advancing your career, you don't have to forget about your roots. You don't have to forget about how, where you started, but you could actually find a way or solutions that could improve where you came from and where you're going by using both of those experiences.
That's great. And you've been doing some initiatives in the Philippines. Can you tell us about your initiatives about the EPRN role in the Philippines?
Yes, yes, I
Yes.
would love to. It's been keeping me busy, especially at night because of the time differences in the Philippines. But so the University of California, in partnership with the Philippine Nurses Association here in Sacramento, have recently or last year established different relationships with multiple universities there. So as of today, we have partnership with University of the Philippines Manila, University of Santo Tomas, Central Philippine University, and Universidad de Santa Isabel in Naga City. So we're all over Luzon and Visayas for now. And through our partnerships, what we do is we provide interprofessional education to nursing faculty, nursing students, allied health sciences, and then we also conduct medical outreach. So when we do our interprofessional education, we also raise awareness about the role of advanced practice nursing. Because as you know, or I don't know if most of your audience know this, but there's no advanced practice nursing or nurse practitioners in the Philippines just yet, and they continue to struggle with universal healthcare access. And so we've seen over and over again in evidence around the world that nurse practitioners bridge the gap in access to care. So we are hoping to raise that awareness within the Philippines so that we could push it within the legislation to add advanced practice nursing in our Nursing Practice Act and in our workforce. So what we did last year is we went back to the Philippines with our student and some faculty and preceptors. We worked alongside nursing faculty and students to model the role of APN during our medical outreach. We gathered data from the health professionals that we work with about the impact of the advanced practitioners that they worked with in the community and in their healthcare system, especially in the rural settings. And that data came back very positive. We actually just got a notification that it will be published soon at the Journal of Nurse Practitioner. We're currently in the press stage, but you know our goal is to really use those data that we gathered and bring it to the legislation so that they are working on so they could like push the bill and get the bill approved so that we can have advanced practice nurses in the Philippines and not just use data from other countries but actually use imperative data that is local to the country. So that's what we're doing, and I'm so happy for all the support that we're getting from Philippine Nurses Association in the Philippines, PNAA here in the US, Society of Internationally Educated Nurses and Nursing Allies have been a huge supporter. The Board of Nursing in the Philippines and also like the associations of deans there have been really supportive. So we're just really, really grateful for all the support to move this advocacy forward.
Thank you for your advocacy and your passionate about this advocacy for advancing the role of APRNs in the Philippines. I think it's very pertinent and very timely to provide a universal care to the Philippines because a lot of our kababayans also deserve the care that they need to get because of this lack of providers back home and also the access to healthcare is
Mm-hmm.
remains a challenge. So I think this advocacy and the future of nursing leadership will solve that problem and bridge the gap. Now, Dr. Zyrene, what is your advice to your younger self when you look back at your younger version of yourself just starting out in nursing? What advice would you give her today?
A really good question. I think I'd say to just be true to yourself. hold on to your purpose, know your purpose, and try to live each day reaching for that purpose, right? Because the journey hasn't been easy, as we've talked about, right? But I am just really grateful for the people that influenced me to be who I am now. Like my grandfather has been a huge role model for me. And throughout this journey, I've met more people, more mentors that really helped me grow. And I think, like, yeah, I would tell my younger self that there's a huge future ahead of you. That, you know, your opinion matters, but also your well-being matters. And I think that's what we're missing now in our, younger generations, is we often push them to work hard to be productive, but to what extent, right? You can't give from an empty cup. So that's what we always tell our students now too, is, yes, you work hard, but you also have to work on yourself.
Thank you for emphasizing self-care and also a realization that we got to keep going, right? There's a lot of distractions and a lot of barriers, but we can offset that.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Zyrene, we end every episode with a moment of reflection. If you could speak directly to a nurse, student, educator, or a healthcare professional who is feeling exhausted, discouraged, or questioning whether they can keep going, what would you want them to hear right now?
I would tell them that you are not alone, right? What you're feeling is valid. Utilize the support that is available to you. May that be through your school, through your work, through your family. Reach out. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, and that it's okay to take a break. Sometimes, taking a break from work, from school, from all the demands around you is really what our body needs and our brain needs to reset. And from that break, you can always come back stronger. And I've seen that work for myself, for several of our students and the people that I work with. And that's been like the biggest, I think, and the most valuable lessons that I've learned from the best mentors that I've met in my life. It's okay to take a break.
Thank you, Dr. Zyrene. And one of the most powerful reminders from today's conversation that we had is that caring for others should never require abandoning ourselves. And mental health is not separate from healthcare, it is healthcare. And perhaps one of the greatest acts of compassion is learning to extend the same care, grace, and understanding to ourselves so that we freely give to others. Thank you, Dr. Zyrene Marsh, for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us.
Thank you
to everyone listening in. Where can they follow you if they have questions about your advocacy initiatives, or they just want to collaborate with you?
Yes, I am on LinkedIn. You can find me at Zyrene Marsh. I'm also on Instagram at Zyrene Louise. But yeah, I'd be happy to collaborate. You could also find my profile through the UC Davis School of Nursing faculty website and bios. I will be at the Philippine Nurses Association conference in July. I hope to see you there, Dr. Morante. And yeah, I'll be at the ICNNP presenting about all our global work as well in September. So I hope to see you all there.
You're so busy. I don't know how do you handle it from left and right presentation to your global advocacy. And we're rooting for you. You're doing a great job in lobbying for our profession. And you're so young. I think when I look at you, Dr.
Don't say the
Pusalan, I
age.
will agree, like, oh, she's a Gen Z, right?
Oh, I'm not a Gen Z. I'm a millennial. We're
Remember,
millennials.
we
We're the
were
same
having this
age.
conversation that you were going into the clinic and they thought you were the student and not the faculty,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They're like, oh, we have 2 students today. I'm like, I'm actually the faculty member observing or evaluating my student, but thank you very much.
So
That's what
be it.
self-care do to you. Keeps you
Yes.
young.
Correct. I think we need self-care for us to
Yes.
look so refreshed and not so
Yes.
burn out and stress out.
Yes, exactly. Because, yeah, people will see it and feel the energy when you're burnt out. So, gotta find a moment to take care of yourself always.
So see you all until next time. Be kind to yourself, stay present, and remember you deserve the same care you give to everyone else as a healthcare provider, and we're rooting for you. Thank you for making your mental health as a priority. If you like what you're hearing and it resonates you, please share, like, or subscribe to our social media. Mindful Moments with Pedro Morante. See you guys next week. Thank you, Dr. Zyrene Marsh in the house.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Mindful Moments with Pedro Morante. Be sure to follow the podcast so you'll never miss an episode. If you find value in our time together, leave a quick review. It helps more people discover the space we're creating. For updates and more reflections, follow us on social media. Until next time, take care.